Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to another Credit Safe webinar. My name is Nathan Kolb. I will be your host today, and I'm looking forward to this time together. Looking forward to a great discussion here. Just want to, before we get fully started and I introduce our guest, I want to let you know that throughout this entire webinar, we're going to be taking questions. You can use the question and answer little tab at the bottom. If you look at the little icon at the bottom of your screen, there's a little text bubble that says Q&A. You can type your questions in there, and then I'll be discussing them with Natalie, who's our guest today. If you've been in any of our webinars in the past, we've asked that you do that throughout, and then we would hold the questions till the end. But today, what we are going to do is we're going to actually answer them as they are asked. So as you go through, it may take a minute or two, but pretty much as we're going through, we're going to have those answered because we're going to be doing something a little different today. We're going to be doing more of an interview style webinar, talking back and forth. So I'm excited to have Natalie here with me today. Natalie Oliviero, of course. I asked you how many times, Natalie, if I could get your name right, and I can't, apparently, right?
You can.
You said it was tough, and I just totally flubbed it here in front of everything. So
it's Oliverio.
That's, whatever I said, that's the correct way, folks, is how she said it. So, what a great start, right? But Natalie is the CEO and founder of Military Talent Partners, and I don't want to take too much away because we are going to talk about her journey and kind of what brought her to this point. So I don't want to go too much into her bio and too much into all of that. But I do want to welcome you, Natalie. I'm so excited to have you here, both as a colleague, as a fellow veteran, as a friend, and as somebody who's just an awesome entrepreneur, an awesome CEO. I'm super excited to have you here with us.
Thank you so much, Nathan, for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you too, talking about something that's super important, especially right now.
Yes. So before we dive into all these questions, just give me the background. What was the journey that brought you to be here today, to be in this position that you're in, to have the company that you have, all of that?
Wow. So when I transitioned out of the Navy, I had a really tough time. I thought I had all the answers and I knew what I was going to do, but I really, really struggled a lot. And I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have a plan. I really didn't know what to do. And I really fell into some dark times. And, throughout my career, I had been laid off. I had my entire team let go, terminated at a moment's notice for no reason. So when those things happen, it takes you back to that feeling of struggle post-transition, when you don't know what's next, when you don't have a purpose and you're scared and you feel like you don't belong anywhere. That's a common thread of everyone who transitions. Obviously, it's at varying degrees for other people, but I wanted to do something to improve that. I felt I could do so much more on my own if I could pair the power of mentorship with full life cycle recruiting, helping to prep people for their next meaningful career, and then actually connect them to the right career for them. I thought that would be the biggest and best impact I could make for other people, because I personally know how much the right career can benefit and change your life. It's a really powerful thing. And to have the ability to curate that for other people, elevate human potential, sign me up all day, every day. And so Military Talent Partners was born.
Right. Well, that's awesome. And I'm going to take one little step back, because I know you and I both being vets and speaking to the veteran community often. For those folks that are not, you are fully welcome on this webinar. We want you here. But a couple of things that Natalie was talking about, we talk about transitioning all the time, and what she's meaning is transitioning out of the military. So when you stop being in the military, whether that is transitioning from an active duty status to a reserve component status, National Guard, Reserve, something like that, or transitioning fully out of the military and being done with your military service, that can be due to just completing your time, completing and going into retirement from the military, an injury, all sorts of reasons that you would come out of the military. But for most folks, they still want to have that career after the military. They want something going on afterwards. whether they served 2 years or they served 30 years, they still want something afterwards. And it's that time of transition that can be really tough. And it's similar in a lot of respects to folks that are transitioning from one type of career to another. So if you're making a massive career shift, say from engineering to sales or medical or something like that, you have that same type of feeling, maybe not in the same way or the same degree, but you do have a similar setup of what's going on. So when Natalie's talking about that, or I'm talking about that, that's what we're referencing when we say that, just to make it clear for everybody. And no, this is not specifically only for veterans. We're going to be talking in general about businesses and how they handle their workforce and all of that. But I do want to give you that background because you spent how many years in the Navy, Natalie?
Just 4.
Okay, so you were 4 years in the Navy. We won't hold that against you. At least I won't. As everybody I think out there knows, there's definitely some rivalry between the branches. So Natalie picked the wrong branch, and that's just how it goes. But so what ended up? I mean, you gave us a little bit there, and you sound really passionate about what you do. But what kind of drew you into this idea of recruiting? That is not something I could say right now. I would never. Somebody was like, "Oh, I want you to be a corporate recruiter." I feel like, no, not a chance. Like, no. So, what kind of brought you into that setup?
That's a great question. After I graduated college, post-military, I got a really good job working for the federal government in HR. And I sat in this room with 4 white walls, no windows, a big clock that ticked so loud with stacks and stacks of paper. And I quickly learned that that's not the kind of HR I wanted to work in. I missed the people. I missed helping people connect to a career, doing something more meaningful, getting to talk to people. That's what I need. I need to be, interacting with other people. So I figured out that recruiting was the way to go. And luckily I found an incredible position for my first real recruiting job. And I would say it was like love at first sight. It was an incredible experience. I learned so much. And year after year, I just wanted to keep escalating the potential to impact as many people as possible.
Okay. That makes sense. I can understand that whole idea of, the wall with the clock and the papers and everything. Although I think right now some people are kind of craving that now when they're at home with, sitting on the couch doing this. But I can understand not wanting to have to do that all the time. So Max, I do see your question. I'm choosing to ignore it because Max says go Navy. It's not really a question, so we're going to ignore it. But I do want to let him
know, Max,
that we did recognize his question. I am paying attention to those folks. But let's start diving in now to like the corporate culture and the idea of what businesses are doing right now for their people, their teams. We're in a kind of an unprecedented time for how employment is going and how businesses are handling their employees and everything. So let's just kind of first talk about the idea of talent management. What do you think really makes a strong talent management program or talent management group from a business perspective?
I think operating in the most efficient capacity, making sure that you have the right level of talent. I would say that the majority of employers are looking for mid to senior level talent, which is kind of hard to find because if you're mid-level, you're probably building your career and you're really happy where you are. If you're senior, you're probably really experienced and really expensive. But the up and comers, the 0 to 3 years of experience people are fresh potential, right? So they get often overlooked in the talent marketplace, but if you're really managing your team properly, you have a good mix of the right level of talent, understanding that those entry level, those 0 to 3 year of experience population are up and comers. They're there for you to lead and to mentor and to grow in the way that you want your company to grow as well. So I think hiring at the right level of experience is really important. Also, building beyond someone's resume. People often get hired based on their qualifications, their skills, and their personality. Right. Well, now they're in your organization. So how do you manage and capture the talent that you already have? Having evaluation, so to speak. You could have, one-on-one weekly meetings, monthly meetings, team meetings, whatever you're going to do. It's really important to continue to cultivate that talent and help build it up from where it's at to where you want to see it go. That doesn't necessarily mean you have to continually constantly promote people, but they should be promotable. You should be lifting them from wherever they are, improving on the talent that they already have, making them better and stronger for your organization and for their career.
Okay. So you're saying with some of that having as part of, say, a leadership evaluation, or as managers and things like that, that they need to not just be measured necessarily on how their team's performing, but also on how they're mentoring and grooming that team to take other positions?
Not just take on other positions, but take on more responsibility to be able to perform at a higher level. Think about when you first started out in one of your first positions post-military, breaking from that career transition into a new position kind of brings you back to not entry level, but it's new territory, right? So when you think about what you were capable of doing then, you probably had a really great manager or great teammate or peer environment where you kept learning and kept growing. That's the ideal situation. Too often we hire people and we put them in a box and we don't groom them, we don't mentor them, we don't let them grow. And from that box, they are unlikely to climb out. And then you're capping off the talent potential for your own organization.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I get where you're going with that. That makes total sense. So how can businesses and companies as an organization, as a structure, help to foster that? Because it's great to do it. And I think we can all think back on maybe the two sides of the same coin, either that great person that really helped us and really kind of encouraged and showed us where to go, or that person that was like, I will never be like that. I want to do exactly opposite than that. So I think we've all had those, but how do we get away from that one person and really make it for the whole company?
You have to have a continual consultative relationship with your employees. It's really important to understand what's important to them. Where do they want to go in their career? What are their goals? And how do they match up to the mission of the organization? That's going to get you the most engaged, retained workforce that you could possibly have by investing the attention and the time with the talent that you already have. They're going to feel motivated and energized, and most importantly, valued, and that there is some upward mobility that exists for them in the company, which, while we're on that topic, the potential to be promoted or upward mobility in your profession is the number one, or the lack thereof, is the number one reason why people leave their positions. It's not money.
Wow. Okay.
It's not title. It's that cap of talent. You don't want to cap it off. You don't want to put somebody in a box and not ever let them have the opportunity to grow.
Gotcha. So how do you think that's changing right now? Or is it changing from a business's perspective with so many layoffs that we're hearing, so many remote work now, things changing, all of that? How do you think that's changing?
From my perspective, this is the truth. Massive layoffs have happened. There are, different programs being rolled out from the government to help encourage businesses to retain and rehire their talent. But I would say the majority of the time, a layoff is really not your fault. It's not indicative of your performance. It's really, budgetary, or a casualty of a situation like this. However, there is a population of people, of employees that maybe that company really just wanted to let go and they didn't have a reason to. So I don't believe everyone will be rehired. Not everyone will be retained. And sometimes that's really hard to hear and hard to recognize. But I think that regardless of the situation that you're in, whether you are rehired by your former employer or you're looking for a fresh start somewhere else, the entire landscape is different now. And what worked to get noticed then will not work now.
Okay. And do you think this is a good time for folks, whether it's they're laid off and they're looking, or the companies have had to lay off folks just due to, we've got to keep the company intact, or whatever the case? And is this a good time for everybody to kind of take a breath, reevaluate, and maybe even rewrite some things and redo some things going forward? Or is this like a just get back in the saddle and then figure it out from there type time?
Yeah, that's a great question, because when you're left all of a sudden without a job or you're in between careers, you are full of anxiety and unsureties, and it's not a great time. But and you can't control any of those things, right? You
Right.
can't
Right.
control what's going to happen next, or what's already happened has already happened. What you can control is your mindset and your way forward. So you should absolutely take yourself to zero, wipe a clean slate. Think about what your goals are now from where you're sitting. Don't focus on what you've already done. You've already done that. That's already over.
Right.
What's next for you? Be future thinking in every decision that you make. Create new goals. Write them down every day. Write them down in the morning.
Right.
Write them again at night. How have they changed? Are you meeting them? Are they getting you closer step by step to where you want to be? You may decide to go in a completely different direction. No better time if you're unemployed than to start branching out, becoming well qualified or knowledgeable about a new area that you want to expand to. You should be creating a map for your talent.
Right.
Where do these companies exist? What cities, what states, what kind of roles are available in these companies? Make a wish list. Make a top 10 wish list for
Mm-hmm.
employers you want to work for. Make a top 10 wish list of positions you'd like to have. And if you're open to relocating, make a list of the places you'd like to live. Make those three things match up with each other and make a plan forward for your future. You are always one decision away. I love that saying. You're only one decision away from changing the rest of your life.
Right.
So if you want to start something new, you don't have to hold on to all the things that have just happened in this insane pandemic ridden world. You can
Right.
think of what's next for you, because it is going to change. It is going to get better, and you
Sure.
will work again, and things will be back to normal
Right.
for the foreseeable future. So there's no better time to start planning what's next for you than right now.
So with that all being said, some companies just they had to do something. And I think we all recognize that something had to be done for a lot of companies. And layoffs were some of them, but some of them have decided, we're going to keep the people we have, but we had 5 open positions, no more. We don't have any open positions. We are freezing this. So it's a hiring freeze. So do you think that's a smart move, or it should, with so many people being unemployed right now, should they be open? Should they be looking?
You mean, should the employers be looking for
Yes,
new
should the
talent?
employers look? Sure.
So here's why my answer is no, because the ability to hire talent depends on your headcount budget, which basically is a big
Okay.
bank that allows you to
Right.
pay people. So if your business is making less money, or unfortunately no money right now, and you're trying to retain your workforce, you cannot afford to bring anyone else in.
Right.
Most employers have not only tried to retain people, but they've had to let a certain number of people go, because
Right.
that bank only has so much money for this year based on their revenue, right?
Right.
So at best, companies should be strategizing on how much they can afford to hire, how much they can afford to hire X number of talent in Q3 and Q4 to help push their business forward, because they will need talent to make that happen. Talent is the lifeblood of any organization. You will not make money. You will not generate revenue. You will not be able to match volume to profit unless you have the right talent. So hiring will resume. You will have to thaw your freeze. And when you
Right.
do, you have to make sure you can afford them.
Sure.
So it's
Sure.
best to make a strategy, a headcount strategy, quarter by quarter, ramp it
Okay.
up slowly, not all at once. Don't open, the late Q2 floodgates and just overhire or hire
Right.
anybody, just a race to get people, warm bodies working. That's not the goal. That is setting yourself up to fail as an employer.
So as we talk about this hiring freeze, as we potentially, in, like you're saying, Q3, Q4, move into a more normal as we've known it in the past. I don't know that it's going to be the same type of normal, but some sort of a normalcy in the economy, in business and everything like that, hopefully. Do we take a blowtorch to the hiring freeze and just thaw that thing out as fast as possible? Or do we leave it out in the sun, let it go quick, or do we slowly do this? How do companies best take this freeze and thaw it out so that they can take advantage of this? It's rough right now, but it really becomes an opportunity for them to realign their talent management and their way they're going forward, and the vision of the business and all of those type of things.
You're absolutely right. And My answer to that is go as fast as you comfortably can. You don't want to sacrifice quality for speed. And you really should not go into rehiring until you have a solid plan for the rest of this year going into 2021, because you want to build your team with the right talent. You want to make sure you're hiring at the right level. You also have to realize you can't just massively hire people and then just welcome them in. There's also onboarding. You don't want to draw a radical crowd to onboarding because it's such a important time. There's so much paperwork involved, and there's so much attention from HR, and it's the indoctrination. It's not the first impression, because that's really in the interview phase, but this is like, okay, here's what you bought into, and you want that to be a good experience, because believe it or not, there have been situations where people have not come back after their onboarding week because they didn't like what they experienced. So you run the risk of retention nightmare or unretainable people if you go too fast. So the takeaway is really, do not ever sacrifice quality or the right match for speed.
So with that being, kind of something that people need to be keeping in mind, businesses need to be keeping in mind, how do they do that best when we have these like almost unconscionable numbers of unemployment claims and we're hearing of all these folks that have lost jobs or at least been laid off or those type of things? How do businesses do that in the best way going forward without just being like, oh my gosh, we got to snap these people up as fast as possible?
That's a great question too. And, I think if an employer can afford to hire people Q2, Q3, Q4 this year, and they have their plan in place and they're ready to actually recruit and hire, you can't just open the floodgates again. I think it's really important to have a technical pre-assessment so that you're putting applicants, even though it's frustrating for candidates to have lengthy application process, which I'm typically not really a fan of. What I am a fan of is a pre-screening assessment from the company. It takes more time to create it. You have to make sure that you're asking the right questions so you're not siloing talent out of consideration, but that you're getting the right people matched to what you need. That will cut out so much noise of the wrong resumes, of people wasting their time thinking, well, I could be qualified. You have to have a well-written job description that accurately and efficiently describes what you're looking for, because this is how people evaluate your request for talent based on their skill and ability. So first, have a really well-written job description. Second, have an amazing pre-screen assessment so anyone can take it and really define, is this for me or is this a long shot? Because then you're going to be able to more effectively and quickly screen people out so that you can get the right people in.
Sure. And let's kind of flip that a little bit for all these folks that have, whether you're in a position now and you're holding on to it and you're fortunate to be still working and we're looking before all this to make a career transition or what have you, or you're using this time to find that or whatever. What should they be looking for? And then on top of that, how is that going to affect how employers are looking for folks?
So the first part about candidates,
what should candidates be looking for? Like, what should they be doing right now if they're looking to adjust or transition or even just change companies within the same field or what have you? What should they be doing during this time to be ready for this reopening of business, so to speak? And then, is there anything different that businesses should be looking for as candidates have had a lot more time to work on their resumes, to work on their CVs, and all that type of stuff?
I would say, first of all, just because you have all this time to work on your resume doesn't mean that you actually are. I think what's most important is that you have a goal of what you want to do next, so that you can easily articulate that to anybody, whether it's a networking conversation or a recruiter call, a pre-screen with a recruiter, or an interview with a hiring manager. You want to be able to crystal clearly articulate what it is you want to do, how you're going to do it differently than anybody else, why you do it or your purpose behind it, so that they can absolutely easily understand your value and the scope of your talent and if it fits into the organization. I think that's your best bet, is to spend your energy kind of going back to zero again and honing your dialect, the way you articulate what you want. Maybe you haven't been on an interview in 10, 20 years. Maybe you're unemployed for the first time in your life. this is the time where you have to understand the market is different. You have to not only compete with a sea of talent of 22 million and growing, but now you have to stand out. So practice. What do you do? Who are you? How do you do it that's different or better than somebody else? And why do you do it? You want to connect with that employer. Employers should have more empathetic interview styles right now. Maybe you're going to be relegated to only Zoom or Skype or some type of a video interview interface with candidates. You can still absolutely properly evaluate and connect with people just like we're connecting right now on this webinar. You want to make sure you're adjusting your style. I have worked at companies where there were 5 different levels of interviews, where there were panel interviews, one-on-ones, massive tours, all-day situations. It's time to cut all of that noise. We don't have time for it. So you have to streamline your hiring process, think about the interview life cycle, and make it a two-way street. Yes, there's a ton of talent available, but you cannot ever slack on candidate experience, because that is that's the biggest thing that can tank a company's reputation, is the candidate experience.
Sure.
Think about a company that maybe did give you 5 stages of an interview and did a really crappy job of communicating in between and ended up rejecting you. You're likely to go onto Glassdoor, onto Google, onto LinkedIn, and to review that company in a very negative light. Now, if you continue that trend, you're going to end up with hundreds of reviews like that. But if you're kind and empathetic and mutually beneficial in your deep dive for talent, you're not going to have to worry about that problem. You're going to have a stellar reputation, and you're going to be able to find the right talent in a really positive way.
Awesome. So Max, I see your question, and I'm hesitant to ask it because of your earlier non-question question, but I am going to ask it. Max here is asking, if a candidate's been laid off during this time, what should they be doing, especially on their LinkedIn profile? Should they close out the job that they had and put an end date on that job? Should they change the headline that they have on their status, or on their profile rather? What should they be doing so that it can be, maybe they still want to be open to that old employer, but they want to possibly look at new opportunities too? How do they handle that?
Yeah, I think pre-pandemic, you always wanted to kind of keep your LinkedIn current, to always look like you had a current position, because otherwise you're going to have to explain a gap in employment. Yeah. However, pretty much anyone on the planet can understand that there's more than 22 million people unemployed, and you were unable to work because of coronavirus. So it's okay to have a gap. It's okay to have an end date. It also signifies that you're available for hire because you're unemployed right now and you're looking, you're openly interviewing. That doesn't mean you're desperate. That doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. It's not the same context that may have existed before, right?
Sure.
Also, with your headline, you want to say what you do. You want to have someone look at Nathan's profile and understand in a split second who he is and what he does. Take mine, for example. It says, I mentor and hire veterans and military spouses. Mm-hmm. So I want veterans and military spouses to know they can come to us for mentorship and for hiring. I want companies to know, hey, this is who we hire. Do you want to diversify your talent? So you want to think about,
right? Just a little bit.
Yeah, tiny. We're very subtle in the Navy.
Of course.
But you want to make sure that it says what you do. You could also go for, project manager / finance / open to new opportunities. You could do that, because here's the thing about LinkedIn. There are recruiter licenses that companies will use, but there are various levels of that license. There's one that's like $100 a month. There's one that's $10,000 a year. If you have the less robust license, then maybe they don't see your, hey, I'm open to new opportunities button. Right. So make it dummy proof, right? You want to make your goals so crystal clear that there's no room for misinterpretation. If you take that mindset to your LinkedIn profile, you are going to get it in really good shape.
Cool. We have a couple more questions coming in here. One from David. As job seekers, and I'm going to actually add here as businesses as well, how can they best, how can a business best articulate that they are or are not hiring? Because some of them don't want to take those job postings down because they paid for them and they want them up there or whatever. How does a job seeker know that those are still active? And as a business, is it better to just take them down right now and eat the money, or should a business keep them up?
Okay, so a couple things here. Most vendors like LinkedIn, Monster, ZipRecruiter are not going to charge you for this time if you're not hiring. There are negotiations going on right now with those tools so that employers are not losing out. If you are an employer hiring and you have paid postings out there, call everyone and ask them, you want that time back. You want that
Great
time
stuff.
credited
Yeah.
to your posting,
Right.
so that it's not eating up your money in your ad spend for no reason.
Right.
As far as candidates knowing what's currently available, a lot of ATSs will show the date it was refreshed or posted.
Okay.
So check on that date, but also you cannot rely on this technology. You should, however, rely on the people that you're networking with and you're talking to. Try to reach out to the recruiter, but again, a recruiter could have 50 to 75 open jobs that they're working on in any one day.
Right.
So imagine there's only 10 applicants to 50 jobs. Can you talk to 500 people in a day?
Right.
I've tried it. It's really hard. You can't, not effectively or intelligently.
Sure.
So understand that it's tough to get through, but also understand the magic happens always in the follow-up. Follow up, follow up, follow up. But all you can really do is take a chance that it is still open, ask the right questions, not just to recruiters or HR, but to maybe peer level people who work at the company,
Right.
or potential hiring managers. And anyone can find these people on LinkedIn by going to the company's page, clicking the blue hyperlink to see all employees listed on LinkedIn. You could filter by location to make sure you're finding the right people to talk to.
Great stuff. One other question here from Bruce. Do you have any cohorts starting during the lockdown, during this quarantine time? So explain what your cohorts are and then give an answer to this if you would, please.
That is such a great question, Bruce. We are going to roll out cohort 5 in the next couple of weeks. And it is going to be a little bit different now that the talent marketplace has shifted. And what Bruce is referring to is a 6-week online course. It's called Mission Career Transition. It is not just for veterans and spouses, although that's the demographic that we serve, right? That's our niche. But this is for anybody going from A career to B career. Say you were a waitress and now you want to work in IT. Say you were an engineer and now you want to be a teacher. Whatever the transition, this course takes you to zero. You start with your why, you start with identifying all the hard stuff that most people skip and they just rush to their resume, and their resume is not really saying anything, but I will not get on that bandwagon. The point is, it's a 6-week online curriculum that is accessible from anywhere in the world. It's done through a private community online, and it covers everything, absolutely everything, from figuring out who you are, what you want to do, how to articulate that, how to put it in a resume, how to navigate and network on LinkedIn, how to properly interview in the best possible way, how to negotiate a job offer, do your elevator pitch. I mean, really threw in like everything but the kitchen sink. On purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have 2 final questions and we're running up towards time. So I'm going to ask these real quick. One, do you think there's going to be a big shift in the employer market, especially from a business perspective, with having to send so many people remotely? Do you think that's going to be a hard transition to come back from? So now everybody's used to working in their pajamas with a shirt and tie on top and pajama bottoms on the bottom and sitting on their couch doing Zoom calls. Is it going to be hard to get people back into the office as we're transitioning back to a more normal setup? So that's question 1. What do you think?
Yes, it's going to be really hard, not just for the employers, but for the employees, right? It's already hard enough if you've never worked remotely to all of a sudden create a space in your home to be effective and efficient all day, every day, turning out deliverables and projects and what have you. So they had to make a shift and a change to make that happen successfully. Now they're going to have to shift back. Maybe they got into their comfort zone, or they were able to be more effective and it was quieter at home, and maybe they worked better on their own and prefer to work digitally. So it just depends. It's going to be difficult for everybody to kind of come back into the fray and figure out what your new normal is like. But the comforting thing there is it's the same for everybody. Everybody in
Sure.
some capacity is going to have some kind of a struggle or discomfort or hurdle to get over when they're transitioning back into a physical present in office workforce.
Right. Right. And then final question, just as we're just a minute or two over here, how do people connect with you? Obviously, you've got a wealth of knowledge. You've got all these, your cohort, your other programs, and everything. How do they get to know you a little bit more and your company a little bit more?
I am maybe in an unhealthy capacity, very accessible. Anybody can reach out to us anytime at militarytalentpartners.com. I monitor that inbox every day and I personally respond.
Right.
Our phone number is at the top. My email's there as well. It's Natalie at militarytalentpartners.com. And I live on LinkedIn. I've actually had people call me the LinkedIn lady or ask me if I lived on LinkedIn. I'm like, yes, my address is actually inside of LinkedIn in the back end of your computer that you can't see. But anyway, you can reach me at any of those places. We are everywhere and we welcome all contact at any time. We want to help as many people as possible. And for any employers that are with us, I want you to know how important it is in the sea of talent that exists not to forget to diversify your workforce. And I
Yes.
would just not be me if I did not tell you the incredible value that lies in hiring veterans and military spouses. And we are going to be pushing and working even harder than ever before to make sure that this demographic of talent is not lost in the sea of applicants and candidates and talent. So please remember that. And if you have open opportunities, we would love to help you because we've got tens of thousands of vets and spouses ready to go to work. And we're still working to get tens of thousands of the right opportunities for them.
Sure. Absolutely. And I, would definitely second that as a veteran who is in the civilian space and everything. It's a great thing. You bring a lot of, you can bring a lot of experience and things like that. There's a lot to learn and it's a great thing when employers are willing to work with you and hire you as a bonus. Yeah, you have to have the skills and the ability and you got to meet the qualifications, but then that's kind of an added bonus for both sides. So it's a great thing. Natalie, as always, it is a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. It has been great having you. I know folks here have had a lot of benefit from this. Most of the people, I am guessing, are or will connect with you on LinkedIn. And if you can let them know that you got them here, that'd be great. I know some of them are trying to connect in the question and answer stuff right now. So if they want to post something to you, would that be okay? And you can help connect some of these folks around since you're kind of the maven of doing all that. Awesome. Yes. That's great. Well, folks, thank you so much. Again, my name is Nathan Kolb. I am here for Credit Safe, and these are our webinars. If you would like to know more, you will be getting a follow-up link from us. You'll be getting an email from us just thanking you for coming and giving you some more information about all the different webinars that we have. We have webinars not only on the stuff that we do as a company, but also like we did today on anything that is in the B2B industry space, anything that works for businesses and all that. We try to have a time and bring an expert on to talk about it. So hope you can join us another time and have a great rest of your day. Thanks.